Hey, Dion Johnson here, also known as the Womanologist, and I'm making this video for you. If you're a woman in senior leadership, you're a woman who reports to boards, or you're a woman who um, sits on a board, or you're a woman who, you really want to take your message to a board, but you're feeling unpermitted to speak. You are feeling held back somehow. You're feeling like you're caught up in some sort of power struggle and that you're not allowed to bring your voice. You're not allowed to speak your truth. You feel silenced, or you feel like you aren't permitted to fully express yourself and your view and your unique, valuable insights. This is for you. I've been thinking about this all day because I've been coaching today, and at several points through the different coaching sessions, this point has come up of women are feeling like they're being held back from using their voice. They're not allowed to speak up. They're not allowed to share what's on their mind. And so I've been thinking about a story, something that happened to me about 10 years ago. And I like to say something that happened for me about 10 years ago. I think it was around that time that I had this friend on social media. And this friend, we were associates on Facebook, and we got to know each other quite well. And one day she divulged that she was going to be publishing a book, and that the book was going to be really it's going to be really in your face. It was going to be a real sort of her truth. It was going to be a powerful sharing of her truth, but she knew it would ruffle feathers. She knew that this book would really trigger some people. The message, she described the message as intense and really challenging. So I didn't know. She was very secretive about what the book was about, but I knew that it was right for her to write this book. I told her how much I would support her. I know that it takes courage to really speak up, to speak out, to really share your voice. I knew it was going to be a challenge, and I told her that I'd be in her corner. And if it ever got tough, if it ever got rough on the journey, that I'd be in her corner. I'd be her cheerleader. That I would really support her to speak her truth. I mean, that's really what I stand for. I really stand for helping people to speak their truth in high level settings like the boardroom and C-suite and other high level forums, because I believe that those places are where culture is shaped. Those places are where our world is being shaped. And I don't think that's even far-fetched. I think that what's happening in those high level meetings really matters on with how industry and how organizations impact service users and the world at large. So I am all for women bringing new insight and new ideas, even if they go against the grain. So, I said I would cheer this woman on. I said that I would be, in her corner. But when the book came out, I must say, I really was challenged by my promise. The book was really, the voice of the woman in the book was really quite aggressive and angry. It was a book about racism, and it was a book that really, that her tone in the book and in subsequent marketing of the book was really quite confrontative. It was quite accusatory. It was quite in your face, like she promised, but it just didn't match my sentiment. I didn't feel how this woman felt and about racism, that we're both Black women, and we both know that racism is real, but I just didn't feel angry like that. I just didn't feel like accusing people. I just didn't feel like tearing people down, and I felt that's what she was doing. So we had this conversation, and decided that we weren't really good for each other, and so we kind of went our separate ways. But it wasn't finished for me. Like that situation opened up an inquiry inside of myself. I wanted to know. I know I don't feel like that about racism, but I just wasn't quite sure about how I did feel. I wasn't quite sure about what my true feelings were about racism. You know, what she was talking about in the book, I recognized as real. And I just didn't know how I felt about it. I just didn't know how I felt about being a Black woman in this white world that we live in. I just didn't know how I felt about being Black. And so I started to want to know. I started to want to understand what I really felt, what it was really like for me. And so I prayed about it. I said, you know, God, I want to know what's going on inside of me concerning my Blackness, concerning my Black womanness, if that's a word. And one night after that prayer, I went to bed and I had this dream that I want to share with you. It was a dream of me in a prison cell. I was in this prison cell, sort of cowering over in the corner. The scene was black and white. It was one of those jails that had, you know, bars at the cell, bars at the door, and that you could see right through into the hallway. You could look over into the other cells and stuff. And there was this big-bellied sheriff with like really big belly, you know, in the sheriff's uniform, and he had these keys on a belt around his waist, and he had cowboy boots on, and it clicked. I heard the click of his boots coming down the corridor, and soon he was by my cell, and I looked up and I saw him, and he looked at me, and I said to him, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here because I want to go there. And I pointed through the window over in the distance there in the corner. I saw this through the window and over the fields, and right across the way I saw this palace, and there was a ball happening in the palace, and I saw dancing and frivolity and laughter and music and food and wine and champagne, and it was very grand, and I could see everybody having fun over there in the palace at the ball. And here I was in the prison, speaking to this big-bellied guard, saying, I want out of here. I want you to let me out. And I remember in the dream, he looked at me almost with this sort of disdain. And he said, hey, he said, if you think I'm going to let you go over there, you're crazy. He said, I'm going to let you out of this cell, but there's no way I'm letting you in there. There's no way I'm giving you access to that. And then I woke up, and I knew the dream was really important because it was one of those vivid dreams, you know, one of those that God speaks to me in dreams. But it took some days and weeks to kind of tease what this dream was about. And it took me a little while to realize it was answer to the prayer that I prayed about, wanting to understand what I really think about being a Black woman. And what I learned from the dream was that inside of me, I'd made up my mind that white people, white men, the institution of whiteness was able to decide where I went, what I had access into, what I was being kept out of, that they had the keys that would determine which rooms I would given privy to and which rooms I would be denied. When I realized that this was what was really going on for me, first of all, I was truly heartbroken that I was thinking that without even realizing it, that I hadn't really ever become conscious of that belief before, that I hadn't really ever acknowledged that I think like that I think of myself as held back by the institute of whiteness, in the institution of whiteness. Of course, when I heard and realized that this is what I was thinking and believing, I knew immediately that this needed to change. I knew that immediately that I needed to change that narrative and tear down that belief going on in my inner narrative. I knew that I needed to take control of it. But here's why I'm sharing it with you today, is because I'm learning that we don't always know what we think, but what we think shows up in our experience. You see, I realize just how holding that belief, whether I was conscious of it or not, was ordering my steps. It was determining what I would go for and what I wouldn't go for. It was shaping the way that I showed up in leadership. It was adding to it was instrumental in showing in how I showed up and how I spoke up and how I went for things or didn't go for things. Like, this belief was underneath my consciousness, guiding the way and helping me make decisions about my life. And I see it playing out time and time again in my coaching with women, is that oftentimes we don't know what we think, and we don't have a clue how it's guiding and instrumental in shaping how we show up in leadership. So yeah, I don't know, what you take from my story. Can you recognize that there may be some things that you're thinking that you don't know you're thinking? Do you experience, like me, that numbness and not sure how you think about certain things that are happening in our world, like inequality or injustice or illness, or even indifference? Like, are you uncertain about what you think about these things, or how they affect you, or how you internalize them, how you make sense of them? What I've learned through this particular experience is how valuable it is to really dig deep to try and understand what's going on in there, because oftentimes we just have no clue what's going on in there. So oftentimes we'd be shocked. I was shocked when I saw that belief surface. And so, yeah, I'm really just wanting you to think about the potential for you to be holding beliefs that you don't know that you have, but that are shaping our world and showing up in your leadership. I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment, or send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, came up today, so I thought I'd share. My name's Dion Johnson, the Womanologist, and I'm really grateful for you being in my network. Keep watching, keep commenting, keep sharing. See you later.